Now you give him everything he wants, you understand?
Monday, maybe the best day of the week. Now, I've had to actually change my training a little bit because I've been dealing with a bit of a hip niggle. I'll probably talk about that in another video, but swimming's been really fun. Trying to swim has been fun, though the goggles kind of make me look like Emperor Palpatine or something. I don't know. And I've also been spending way more time on the elliptical because it's kind of like running. And when I got my stress fracture, I could only do 30 minutes because I absolutely hated it. I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. The swim went well and the bike was fine, but I could not stay on that elliptical machine any longer than half an hour. It's mind numbing. But today I did 75 or 80 minutes without stopping, which is, you know, a big mental win for me. And so a while back, I made this video, and at the time when I made it, I thought, you know, this is a pretty good video, but I watched it again a couple of days ago, and I realized that there's one thing in there that's been really pissing me off the last couple of days. Often, so every 9 days is probably going to be absolutely perfect. And if you're really well trained, maybe more like every 7 days. Now, apart from me sitting on the floor for some random reason, the thing that I actually get really annoyed with is the fact that this plan only goes for 4 weeks, which is completely useless. So this previous plan that I had, it did actually achieve its goal, which was to try and get people to start hitting every single pace range in a given period of time. And so that's a good part of it. But speaking from experience, I actually did this same training plan at the start of the year and I got really fit really quick, but I also got really injured really quick too, which is really fucking annoying. And that's probably because I just did it way too long. I think I did the same training program for probably 3 months, from like December all the way through to February when I got injured. So that's a long time to be getting good at every single pace range. And what we don't want to do, and what I've learned from experience, is we don't want to overstay our welcome at particular pace ranges for too long that it starts to increase our chances of getting injured. I'll show you what I mean. So imagine that we have this graph, and on the y-axis we have fitness gain, and on the x-axis we have time, I guess. So you add in a training stimulus and you get lots of gains very quick, but eventually it just flattens out. And when you've gotten the most of the benefits from the training, it's time to make a change. Otherwise, you're gonna stop actually adapting to the training and probably maladapting to that same training stimulus. So this is why I don't think that this training plan will work any longer than like 4 to 6 weeks. Actually, what we have to do is start to build a cake, a really delicious cake that doesn't have some fucking shit icing on the outside. I hate icing on cakes. Just plain cake for me will do. So imagine that we have all these different tiers in our cake, and the higher that we go, the faster that tier of cake basically represents. Yeah, do you wanna know what would be absolutely fucking stupid? Is if the base of the cake was smaller than the top. Terrible cake. We need to make a cake that has a bigger base than at the top. That is basic baking cake science. Now what I want you to do is imagine that we replaced the bottom of the cake with, you know, Arabic base, and replace the middle with like, you know, steady running, and replace this tier with, you know, lactate threshold, VO2, and then a cherry on the top would be some crazy sprints. That is what we need to think about when we think about our training. Actually, no, the cherry on the top is some nice Vaporfly 2s. If you know, you know. I'll just show you mine. The icing on our cake. All right, let's get super serious now. Stop fucking around. The only way that you can get the biggest cake possible and the highest cake possible is by having the widest cake possible. You won't be able to do, you know, 3 times 10 kilometers at marathon pace in your peak marathon week if you don't have a massive, humongous base that you've built up over many, many months to get to that point. And yeah, maybe you would actually be able to do it, but it'd be so risky and the injury risk will be really high, and you'd probably get to the starting line limping or, you know, not even get there like me. Nothing is fun about walking the tightrope for 16 weeks trying to build up to a race. That would suck, and you'd have terrible sleep, and you'd be stressing out about how you're always so tight and on the edge of getting injured. Like, we're not elite athletes, we don't need to worry about that. We just need to structure our training a little bit better. Periodization. And here's how we motherfucking do it. So periodization is the process of structuring the training so that it has a very specific goal for different parts of the year that will build on each other to get you on that race line as fast as possible and as injury-free as possible too. And if we work backwards, we already kind of have an idea of what the end phase would be. It'd be like the most specific block of training for that specific race. So like a specific block, for example. And really the goal of that specific part of the training block is to extend how much time we're actually spending at goal race pace so that we can get to race day and it not feel like such a difficult task to stay on pace, because we spent a lot of time in that last 6 weeks before that getting really good at being at that particular tempo. For example, for a marathon block, it could be progressing all the way up to, you know, 3 times 10, like I mentioned before, at marathon pace. But in the weeks prior to that, you could have done, you know, 3 times 8, 3 times 5, you know, 1K on, 1K off marathon pace. And so you build all of that specific work to get yourself absolutely ready to go on race day. So, are you picking up what I'm putting down? The last phase is the specific phase, and it's where we get very specific and try to extend our specific paces. Extend. And so if we work backwards from here, let's have a think. If you want to be able to do those longer extended efforts at a goal race pace, you have to be able to make that race pace feel very easy. And the only way that you do that is by building strength and capacity to actually do that, and also training at speeds that are way faster so that when you come back, you're going to feel great. For example, you see a lot of people out there doing a half marathon block or some really half marathon specific training at the start of their marathon block, and then doing like a half marathon race before then getting really balls deep into some long mega session. And that's really important, because if you spend 6 weeks actually running at tempos that are shorter but faster than your goal race pace, by the time you get there and you try to extend that, you're going to feel really good. And so I'm going to call this phase like a capacity building phase, or you could do like a building phase or something like that. It's all the same shit, really. So the goal of this phase is to run faster for shorter and slower for longer. Now, the faster but shorter intervals would really try to spin the legs up and get you used to running faster and building that economy at a faster pace. And the longer, slower runs are going to mimic the longer extended efforts, but not overly fatiguing you and really pushing you up that graph where you get diminishing returns and probably get injured. So like I said, for example, you could do like a half marathon training block in this build phase to build yourself up. Or if you're training for, say, a 10K, you could do lots of 5K efforts or work at 5K in sessions throughout the week to get yourself really fit and really good at running fast. And then, but here's the thing, we can't do all of that stuff unless we've first built that initial layer of cake. We're gonna make base building great again. Now, base building is my favorite part of the block because it's building the cake base. During this phase, once again, we step off the paces again, back to really slow running. But we also kick up the pace too with some really fast running. Now, the thing about this way of training is that everything builds on the previous block. So you're not going to be able to get the most out of phase 2 unless you've built a really good aerobic base. Just like you won't be able to build really good race-specific strength and being able to extend those workouts unless you actually have built that capacity in phase 2. All of this is so important. Like, think about it. The reason why elite athletes are able to clip off, 25 times 400 meters at their 5K pace with a 30-second rest and feel pretty good is because they've built that aerobic capacity and they have strong legs, and they have a strong aerobic base. They're not sprinting and doing race pace efforts all year round. They're only doing it at the time when they're going to have to do race pace in a race, and maybe 6 weeks prior. Why are you trying to race all year round? It doesn't make sense. No one else does except amateurs on Strava. But anyway, let's talk about the time frames, because that's very important. Okay, time frames. So 2-3 months plus base building, 6 to 8 weeks capacity building, 6 to 8 weeks specific, and then a taper. And then if you get a PB, you can like, comment, and subscribe, and watch the next video. Peace.
You give him everything you want, you understand?
Now, if you want me to actually help you out and make something a little bit more specific for you, just message me on Instagram or something, or send me an email, or whatever. I don't know. See ya.